Bible Space Time.
In the previous video I learned that God didn't make the information of sin. But in Genesis chapter 2 verse 17, it is said, "But you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." I know that God is going to destroy even the concept of death by throwing it into the lake of fire. But why did God use the word die? Die means death.
Yes, die means death for us. But for Adam and Eve it was different. They have never seen anything death or dying. Nothing was withering or getting old at that time. There were no falling leaves or dying flowers. They didn't need refrigerator to preserve freshness of picked fruits. Even though God said, "Die," there was no traces of dying things. The name of the forbidden fruit also contained the words good and evil, but they didn't know the meaning of them. So, they might knew die is non-existing, but that didn't make them to know the state of death. So the law of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a perfect law, which didn't have the knowledge of good and evil and didn't contain any fear force.
So, the law of God didn't create the information of lawlessness.
The Word was God, and God does not have shifting shadows. As the existence of God does not create godlessness, the existence of the Word, the law of God, does not create a state of lawlessness.
I see. So, the lawlessness, the state of sin, wasn't automatically appeared just because of the existence of the law of God.
The law of God expresses the nature of God. As the existence of God does not create the existence of sin, the law of God didn't cause the start of sin.
But Paul said that I would not have known what sin was had it not been for the law. Doesn't it mean that the law created the concept of sin?
Let's say you were cleaning your car and your face got dirty and you didn't know that until you looked into a mirror. Then, what made your face dirty? Was it the mirror? It is true that if you didn't look into a mirror you wouldn't know if your face was dirty, but that does not mean that the mirror caused you to get dirty. The law of God is like a mirror. It just shows you what you have. If you have a stain, it shows you the stain. It does not make new stains, or it does not show you more stains than what you have.
I see. If I don't have any stains then the mirror won't show me anything. Sir, if I don't have any sin in me, then the law won't show me any sin. The law becomes transparent. But Paul also said that for I would not have known what coveting really was if the law had not said, "You shall not covet." Doesn't it mean that the law made me to know the information of sin?
Not really. If everything in this world is green, then how would you call the color?
I know. You talked about that on the other video. If everything has exact same color, then the concept of color does not exist.
That's right. Let's say you named the color green, but suddenly blue appeared. Then how would you name that blue?
I would name it not green.
So, who made you realize that there could be not green? Was it the green or was it the blue?
It is blue, not green. Because until the time that the blue appeared, there was no concept of color.
Yes. As like this, the law of God does not create the concept of lawlessness. But when the lawlessness appeared, the law of God showed it as sin.
I see. So the law of God reflects anything does not belong to God's creation. So it is not the law of God created the concept of sin, but the concept of sin is what is revealed by the law of God as the identity of the sin. That is what Paul is trying to explain.
So, when Adam and Eve sinned, they didn't really acquire an ability to distinguish good and evil, but the law of God started to show what belongs to good and what belongs to evil.
Yes. You are right. But there is one thing that we need to understand. Before Adam and Eve sinned, they actually had a freedom of choice through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But after they sinned, they lost the freedom of choice. Evil does not give you choice to choose God. Evil makes you a slave of sin.
Wait a minute. So, Adam and Eve didn't really become like us right after they sinned.
There is a time difference that we need to understand. We assume that after they sinned, Adam and Eve started to live in the world we are currently living in, that good and evil are equally existing, but that assumption is based on the fact that Jesus already has died for us. We are not considering what would happen to our nature if Jesus didn't die for us. We are living under the effect of cross of Jesus, so we have opportunity, the freedom of choice to believe in God again. But if Jesus didn't die for us, we wouldn't have this freedom to choose God.
I see what Paul is trying to explain. He was trying to explain the differences of before and after the cross of Jesus, by illustrating what would happen to people if Jesus didn't die for us.
Yes, in our time structure, Jesus died on a certain point of our history, so Paul was using this historical fact that what would happen before and after the cross of Jesus. But in reality of the heavenly time, Jesus died on the foundation of the world, even before Adam and Eve sinned, so we cannot really see what would happen in between the times. That's why Paul said, while we were God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his Son. We didn't naturally acquire the ability to discern the good from evil, it was the cross of Jesus that made it possible.
So, what Satan used to tempt Eve was disguising sin as a gateway to expand our intellectual ability. But it was a trick. They actually went into a state of evil, 100%, as a slave of sin.
Yes. That was Satan's trick. We are not made to live in good and evil simultaneously. God created the universe in the nature of his words. There cannot be God and godlessness exist together in God's world. Anybody who believes that good and evil could exist in the universe as independent powers, he is an evolutionist. God is the only God in the universe.
So, the law of God cannot be abolished.
No, the law of God is not an added regulations, it is the system and structure of the universe that everything is made with. We know that time is a structure and space that forms a block of duration that is invisible to us. The law of God is like time. The law of God is invisible and untouchable, but it is the foundation of the universe. Therefore lawlessness cannot be considered as righteousness, and without the law of God, the universe cannot exist.
So, God didn't abolish his own law to forgive our sins.
No. If God wanted to abolish or change his law to save us, he didn't need to send his own Son to take over our sins and die for us. The cross of Jesus is the evidence that God's law is eternal, imperishable and unchangeable. There is no country abolishing the national law to forgive criminal. If there is a place that consider any criminal acts as normal behavior, that is the hell.
By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 3.
Thank you for watching Bible Space Time.